Okay, welcome everyone to our webinar covering your assets, mitigating risk during COVID-19 and beyond. Today we have our presenters. We have Chris Jerby, our Director of Business Development from jobsite, and he's being joined by Nick Bobbitt from Barton Mallow. So if you two want to join on, we'll get everything started.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. Nick, my man, how are you?
Doing well, Chris. How are you?
Good. I want to thank you and the Barton Mallow team for sparing some of your time to participate in this with us. We're really excited to have you and get your perspective on things as the coronavirus has unfolded and taken over our industry. Really good to get some inside information on how folks have been dealing with it. We're going to talk a lot about, Barton Mallow's response and, specifically, the value of getting your sites documented in a time of limited access and, just concerns about, really not being able to have, work done on site as easily and as normally as we would. But I want to first ask you if you would mind just a brief intro to the world out there, who you are and what kind of work you do at Barton Mallow.
Yeah, so Nick Bobbitt. I'm a BDC manager with Barton Mallow. My background is in reality capture, so laser scanning, drones, 360 cameras, and more recently transitioning a little bit into basically implementing technology out in the field. So getting this technology to the hands of the field, and putting a lot of emphasis on that.
We could probably do a whole other webinar just on the transition of VDC to field solutions. It seems like there's been a lot of momentum behind that, but I won't kill too much time with that. Maybe some other day. So the reason this all came up, just a quick background on how we got to this webinar is I got a call from one of your colleagues the very morning we decided to do our COVID-19 free trial. Extended free trial. And just so those of you that are out there, before I forget, if you go to structionsite.com, you'll see a message from our CEO, Matt Daly, when you scroll down on our homepage that would allow you to sign up for a 60-day unlimited, basically 60-day unlimited usage of StructionSite. It's really meant to be a response to the COVID-19 virus and to give people, access to getting their sites documented. That's still in effect. So if anybody who's watching this comes to realize that they need a solution quickly and easily, please go to the website and sign up. Anyway, quickly, the morning that we actually put that program together and decided that would be our response, I got a call from one of your colleagues over at Barton Mallow, wondering how, if it would be easy for us to expedite a quote to get a whole bunch of extra projects online. And of course, it was perfect timing in that, there was no cost for it. We just wanted to make sure you guys had access to the solution for a bunch of your other projects. Full disclosure, you guys are already customers of StructionSite, so you had this rolled out on a bunch of jobs already. But we wanted to make sure that you guys had really unlimited access to get all of your key projects documented. And so it was really perfect timing for us. And as we started to talk a little bit more about this, it became very clear that Barton Mallow had done some really good work, not just dealing with the coronavirus, but in being prepared for something like this. And so I want to talk to you first, how are things going with the business? And then I want to talk a little bit more about, why there was such a quick response from your end, because it was really from executives right through to, operational staff that seemed to get this, this COVID response done really, really quickly.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there, but we've had varying degrees of impact on our projects depending on locations. We're headquarters in Michigan, and we got shut down pretty hard. But we operate all over the U.S., so we've had varying degrees of impact on projects by location. Some were open, some were closed, some were limited to site on who's on site. But one thing for sure is that definitely all of our processes and procedures have been impacted on those jobs. So open, closed, whatever, there's been impact on how we operate. So, and then a huge challenge of a lot of that was, shutting down our offices and having people work from home. So there's been a huge need to turn to technology, right, so that we can, communicate and continue on. So we've gone full force with Microsoft Teams in terms of being able to have meetings and face-to-face interactions, with this critical time.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about, again, you're talking about a fairly large ship you're trying to steer there, and it's not always easy to steer a ship that large that quickly. And it still was really impressive that, again, you guys were able to, shift your course to handle this. And I think it's got to speak a little bit to, again, some level of executive preparation, some level of just general, some risk and security protocols that were maybe already in place. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of the, how the business was ready to deal with this? Some of the measures maybe that the business had already taken to prepare for this?
So our risk management team and our executive leadership team, took immediate action on this. When most of us, myself included, were just not concerned about this becoming an issue. They were meeting sometimes multiple times a day at the beginning to really make sure they understood what was going on and to make sure that there was a plan in place. And then kind of when things became evident that this was actually going to have a huge impact on daily life, they came out with a site-specific emergency action plan for the coronavirus. And part of that included video and photography of the site or the building. And, we need to make sure that everything was safely secured. If there was a shutdown, and just document all the work that's been put in place, what materials are on site, all of that information we just wanted to make sure that we had, because quite frankly, even at that time, we didn't know if we were going to get shut down or just limited, or if things were going to continue. We just weren't sure. So they really made a quick decision to put some measures in place.
Tell me a little bit about how you actually got the capture process done. Was there again, you guys are already customers of ours, so you already had a bunch of sites that were regularly being documented, but there were a number of projects that you brought online. I think you had 10 projects, a month or so ago, you already had 10 projects that came online really quickly that you guys could document. But I know you didn't all have, 360 cameras across every single one of the projects and all the users that might be doing the capture. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you, picked the projects that you felt like were, highest priority to get the capture work done, and then how you actually enabled users to do that site capture work?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, that coronavirus action plan, had some guidelines for documenting sites. And as you mentioned, several projects already using Struction Site, just continue on, right? Make sure you get out there as soon as possible and get your latest capture. But for those that weren't currently using it, it was a couple of things. How do we get people the information they need quickly? So we had a webinar immediately on how Struction Site works, but more importantly, just how to use your iPhone, iPad. Everybody's got a device that they can take a standard photo with. So I was really focusing on getting out there immediately and just being able to capture things as quickly as possible with those kind of standard photos. I've even noticed recently that 360 cameras are really tough to come by right now too. So even if that was an option, we'd be hard pressed to find them.
Yeah, that is an interesting situation that we find ourselves in right now. The limited supply of 360 cameras. I'm sure that will adjust itself at some point soon, but you're right about that. And I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things that we talk a lot about here at Struction Site is versatility. There are a number of different capture approaches. I won't take too long of a detour here, but one of those is to, obviously to try to do that as quickly as you can with a video camera. Our video walk tool enables that. Milestone photos with 360 cameras, those are great too. But in a situation like this, when you really just need to get people out there, it's really handy just to be able to do, your standard photos from your phone's camera. So it's nice to have that level of versatility from a capture media standpoint. So I'm glad you guys were able to just get those phones out there and take some pictures when you knew you didn't have any other technology to use. Let's talk a little bit about sort of once you got a bunch of that capture work done. Let's talk a little bit about how you were able to actually leverage those. Now you get the sites documented, but you don't necessarily have the same level of access that you did before. Have you actually been able to leverage the site photos to enable work, maybe even improve on some of the work just by being able to continue to do that virtually?
Yeah, I think that giving projects instant access to digital images of what's going on site, quite frankly by necessity at this point, as opposed to ease of use. But that's brought it to people's attention that, hey, this stuff's available. It's been available, but maybe we've not been utilizing it to its full capacity. But to actually see something with your own two eyes, as opposed to being told about it and have to use it, you really kind of understand the value a lot better than seeing a presentation or a quick video. Right. Actually using it and seeing the value with your own two eyes, really makes things more real for the people on the project. So they're now realizing that even if we go back to work tomorrow as if nothing ever happened, their eyes are enlightened to what's available and what they can use with that stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the new normal and what we think might stick. But tell me about some other technologies that you guys have been using recently that have helped kind of keep that going. I'm sure that there are a number of other, or maybe some other tools or software that you guys are using to try to help keep work going. Zoom, I guess, is probably something that everybody's been using a lot more of.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the big one is just, meetings being over. We have, we've had Zoom meetings with all the company, with our company leadership giving us updates. As I mentioned earlier, Microsoft Teams for, kind of our standard communication. Those are the big ones. And then, obviously tools like Struction Site have given us the ability to see our job sites digitally. And there's a handful of other things, but I think the big thing is just the meeting communication. That's been the biggest adjustment because, everyone has had to do it at some point. If not, for an extended period of time. I think I have not been in the office since March 16th. So, or about there. So, having to adjust to this has been quite a hurdle for a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Are there, for those job sites that have been able to keep going, are there some new processes, restrictions in place? I assume that you guys are trying to do some level of distancing or personnel tracking. I mean, I don't know what you might have in place, although there seem to be a number of different approaches being taken across the industry. We talk about using technology to continue to get work done in this time, but we're the construction industry, so obviously people have to be building out there. So for those sites that haven't been shut down, have you noticed, or have you guys put in place any sort of new measures to help improve, worker safety?
Yeah, so there's a handful of things that are kind of across the board, right? Distancing on site, one-way stairwells on site, so people aren't passing by. You're not going to see 30 guys doing a stretch and flex, together in a group in the morning, standing right next to each other. There's some protocols from that stuff. No gathering for lunch. A lot of those distancing things are pretty easily across the board. But in terms of access, we've put together a standard form, a self-assessment that anyone on site for the day must fill out, and then they get an email with a green banner for okay, or a red banner for if it's flagged for any reason, symptoms or anything like that. So we've just got a nice system in place to be able to document who's on site and what their level of health is. So that's something that is pretty universal. And then project to project, there's obviously different things, whether that's temperature checks or other measures that aren't necessarily our company mandate, but are a part of the project.
It's really interesting to me how much the idea of site safety has changed over these last couple of months. You used to think so much just about injury, but now you really worry as much about sickness. And so it's interesting to hear all the new measures that are taking place right now, just to try to track viral symptoms, not just the possibility of getting hurt on a job site. So it really is a new world. Okay, so one last question for you, and then I do see that we have a couple of questions from the audience that I wanted to ask you. So what do you think changes for Barton Malow in the future once we're done with this whole thing, as it relates to sort of protecting your projects from risk? I mean, you guys are already using Instruction Site to a certain degree. Do we do more site documentation more comprehensively? Do we take other measures to try to make sure that we're, really, insulating ourselves from risk?
Yeah, so a little bit of a loaded question there, right? Because if there's one thing I know from this whole process is that what I thought yesterday is wrong today, and what we thought 2 weeks ago was completely different then as well. So I'll take a stab at it, but let's not replay this in a couple of years for me.
I won't hold you to it.
Yeah, but I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the biggest thing is having a plan for such a thing. I don't think that every company probably has some level of risk management, a plan, but I don't think anybody had a pandemic approach. So I think being able to have a flexible plan that can be adapted and adopted really quickly is going to be important. And I know that's a kind of a generic thought, but it really just it happened fast, and in reacting and making sure that you have a way to react is going to definitely be something that I think we're going to look at in the future. And as well as just the fact that a lot of this stuff is going to stick, and even for I don't know how long, but I imagine that some level of distancing and additional PPE, whether that's more hand washing stations or hand sanitizer in the future, like those types of things are probably not ever going to go away, or at least not anytime soon. So I think that's stuff that you're going to see stick around, as well as a lot of those safety protocols, like I mentioned. We might not ask for a self-health assessment, but using that same technology, there may be access requirements on job sites that are adapted from that. So I think a lot of what's happening now, especially with technology, is going to allow us to be flexible and adapt in the future.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we're so focused right now on the coronavirus, but really there are so many different events that could happen that could cause some level of work stoppage or limit our access to job sites. Any force majeure event, hurricanes, bad weather of any sort, these are all things that ultimately require some level of preparation and a risk plan. I bet there's going to be a whole lot of people that put together more comprehensive and easy to adopt, as you say, plans for these kinds of things, just as a precaution moving forward, so that people don't get caught in the same way that we did this time through. So things will change. This will definitely leave its mark on the industry. One quick question I wanted to get to before we go that the audience threw at us. I wanted to keep this nice and tight, so I won't take more than one question, but I did want to ask, because this one came up. It relates to both of us here, and I think that's useful. If you're brand new to site documentation and you want to try to use a tool like Instruction Site, do you have any helpful hints? Again, you guys were able to pretty quickly implement the tool, not just now, but previously as a customer. Do you have any suggestions or sort of best practices to using a tool like StructionSite?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the nice things and one of the reasons we've been using it for a while is the fact that it's easy to use, right? Like that's a big sell, is the fact that the app will connect the cameras for you. There's it's very limited knowledge that you need to get going, as well as mention that you can just if you get a project and you have an iPhone or any kind of phone, you can go out there and start documenting. You don't need any special equipment really to get started, which is nice. So you can get your feet wet with something simple and just try it and just see the actual value of something, quite honestly, as simple as seeing where you took a photo from and being able to get back to that spot and know what you're looking at, is incredibly powerful. So you can get out there really easily and get snap a couple photos and just see how it works, and then build up from there. You don't need to necessarily try and master the video walk on day one. You can take steps to get there, and then use the other functionality that's involved with StructionSite as you dive into it a little bit deeper.
And like you say, if time is of the essence, like it has been during this particular time frame, just being able to use your phone is useful. So you don't have to overreach there. Nick, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you spending some time with us. Good luck. I hope you guys continue to get through this and stay productive and stay busy. And we really appreciate you spending some time talking with us about how we cover our assets in this crazy time.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me, Chris. Stay safe.
For anybody that needs access to StructionSite, again, go to structionsite.com and fill out a quick form to get 60-day free access to the solution. Get those job sites documented. It's important. Make sure that there's no theft or damage, etc. Make sure you're covering your assets. All right, everybody. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Again, thanks, Nick, and look forward to talking with you all later.